Discover 5 heartwarming reasons you'd be transformed in just 24 hours in Tudor England. The headline jumped off the page, brightening Sarah's dull afternoon. The hope it promised felt like a warm candle flickering against the storm outside. She stood in the small town library, shoes soaked from the rain, worn-out clothes clinging to her like the weight of the world. A single mother at 35, Sarah often felt like she was drowning in a sea of responsibilities. Cleaning houses. Late shifts at the diner. 2 kids, Emily and Jake, who needed her attention but often got only her exhaustion instead. Who had time for dreams when survival was a marathon? Lost in her thoughts, she wandered deeper into the library, eventually stumbling upon an old leather-bound book. As she gingerly pulled it from the shelf, dust motes danced in the beams of slanting light. The cover, beautifully embossed with intricate designs, whispered stories from a time gone by. She opened it, her heart racing as the words spoke of communities coming together, of resilience in the face of hardship. Each page felt like a lifeline, igniting a flicker of hope buried deep inside. If they could find strength in unity, so could she. Determined, Sarah decided to celebrate this spirit with a Tudor Day festival, to feast, to share stories, to build connections among her neighbors. But the moment she announced her plan, eyes rolled, and laughter erupted. What does she know? They whispered. The kind of judgment stung deeper than the cold winter air. Just another single mom chasing a fairy tale. She felt hot tears threaten to spill. Her heart sank. Was she grasping at straws? Back at home, things were no easier. Emily and Jake missed her. Their big eyes sought the mother who was now a shadow. Guilt clawed at Sarah's insides while she juggled her festival plans and the hunger in her children's hearts. One evening, with her heart racing, she knelt to explain her dream. "This isn't just for me, it's for all of us," she said, choking on emotion. "I want you to feel at home in our community." But doubt loomed large, like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Just as the festival approached, the skies darkened, echoing her anxiety. Would it all fall apart? The pressure mounted was her desire for a better life severing the bond with her kids. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The night before Tudor Day, Sarah stood before the mirror, tracing the lines on her face that told stories of struggle. Each crease felt deeper than the last. But she gathered her kids close, and with a steady voice, she pledged to fight for more than just survival. "Together, we can make this happen," she urged, feeling fierce in a way she hadn't in ages. As the festival dawned, anticipation buzzed in the air, but so did tension. Then suddenly, dark clouds rolled over, churning ominously, pouring rain that threatened her vision of belonging. Sarah's heart raced. Could she rally her children and the community to find strength in chaos? Or would the storm wash away not only the festival but their chance for something greater? Sarah stood at the window, staring out into the torrential rain. Each drop felt like it was mocking her dreams. The storm wasn't just in the sky, it raged within her as well. She felt it threatening to sweep away everything she had worked for: the festival, the connection, the hope for a brighter future. Her heart thudded against her chest, a wild drumbeat filled with anxiety. "Mom, are we still going to the festival?" Emily's small voice cut through Sarah's turmoil. It was laced with a mixture of hope and fear, the kind that came from knowing that sometimes promises fell through. She turned, forcing a smile for her daughter. "Of course, sweetheart. Just a few raindrops, right?" Her own words felt hollow even as she said them. She couldn't let Emily see the uncertainty swirling inside. Not now. Not when they had come this far. Jake stood by the fireplace, staring at the rain with wide eyes. "What if no one comes?" he asked softly. A question that struck a chord deep within Sarah. That's why we have to show up. The storm can't stop us from being together, she replied, her voice firmer than she felt. She had to will herself to believe it. They had to fight against the heaviness in the air, not just for the festival but for themselves. As she turned back to the window, she caught a glimpse of a figure through the sheets of rain. Her neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, bundled up in a raincoat, struggling to carry a basket towards the community center. Hope sparked in Sarah's heart. Maybe the storm couldn't fully extinguish their dreams. She grabbed Emily and Jake by their hands. "Let us go help Mrs. Thompson," Sarah declared, stirring the kids into action. They dashed out into the rain, laughter bubbling in the cold, a sharp contrast to the downpour around them. When they reached the elderly woman, Sarah saw a flicker of surprise on her face. "You didn't have to come out in this weather?" Mrs. Thompson gasped, wiping rain from her glasses. Sarah shrugged, grinning. "We're all in this together, remember?" That simple exchange ignited something within her. As the three of them huddled under the shelter of umbrellas and woven baskets, she noticed more figures across the street, neighbors coming out one by one through the rain. Some carried food, others brought decorations, a renewed spirit rising like a phoenix from the stormy gloom. As they gathered at the community center, she spotted familiar faces. More than she had expected. Sarah felt a swell of pride and joy. It was the connection she had yearned for. Perhaps it was the storm that brought them together. They worked side by side, laughter echoing as they prepared for the festival. The rain eventually eased, leaving droplets shimmering like tiny diamonds as the clouds parted. Sarah looked around, seeing Emily and Jake engaged, their spirits lifted. She felt a warmth blooming in her chest, a feeling she hadn't allowed herself to embrace fully until now. Perhaps it was possible for her to lift herself, her children, and even the community out of the shadows, but the quest for connection was far from over. An unexpected visitor, a long-lost friend from her past, broke through the doors of the community center, carrying with them secrets that could change everything. What would this reunion bring? Sarah's heart quickened as she caught sight of the familiar face from her past. It had been years. Alicia, her best friend from high school, stood in the doorway, dripping wet but undeniably vibrant. Her hair clung to her cheeks and she wore a warm smile, despite the storm that had just raged outside. "Alicia?" Sarah whispered, disbelief dancing in her voice. She was suddenly transported back to youthful laughter and dreams shared late into the night. The years melted away in that instant, and Sarah wondered what had brought her old friend back now. Surprise. Alicia beamed, stepping inside the warm community center, shaking off rain like a dog coming in from the cold. "I heard about the festival, and I couldn't miss it." They hugged tightly, two worlds colliding. Sarah could feel Emily's small fingers tugging at her jacket. "Mom, who is she?" "An old friend," Sarah replied, her eyes locked onto Alicia's, searching for that spark of connection once lost. There was a warmth there that reassured her. Maybe this was the sign she needed. "Wow, you have kids." Alicia leaned down, her face lighting up at the sight of Emily and Jake. They both looked shyly at their mother but seemed intrigued by the new arrival. "Yes, Emily and Jake," Sarah introduced them, pushing aside her own nerves. "I can't believe it's really you," Alicia said, her voice thick with emotion. "I've missed you, Sarah. I've tried to reach out, but life it gets in the way, doesn't it?" For a moment, they were wrapped in an embrace of nostalgia, but reality tugged at Sarah's heart. What's changed for you?" Alicia's smile faltered slightly. "I've faced my share of challenges. Lost a job, moved back here for a fresh start. And you?" "I'm trying to create something here, a community. I want the festival to bring people together," Sarah replied, her voice brimming with a mix of hope and fear. Talking about it ignited unknown emotions. Would they be able to rekindle their bond while furthering what she had envisioned? Alicia nodded thoughtfully. "That's beautiful, Sarah. We could do this together, you know. I've got some experience organizing events." Sarah's heart raced at the thought. Could they join forces? The idea of rekindling their friendship while also building something meaningful together struck her as poetic. But what if their reunion was marred by the passing of time? What if moving forward meant confronting the hurts that had kept them apart? As if reading her mind, Alicia touched Sarah's arm gently. I understand if you're hesitant. History can loom large. It's been a long time, Sarah confessed. The festival felt like so much more than just a gathering now. It was a chance for healing for her, for Emily and Jake, and even for Alicia. Could they truly embark on this journey together? Just then, a commotion erupted near the center's entrance. New arrivals were flooding in, buoyed by the fresh hope in the air. Laughter bubbled among the rain-drenched crowd, faces illuminated by excitement. Sarah's heart swelled even more as she watched her community come together, their combined energy vibrant and cleansing. Still, the specter of the past lingered between her and Alicia. This reunion wasn't just about planning a festival, it was about confronting what had been left unsaid. Hey, Sarah said, pulling Alicia aside gently. There's a lot we need to discuss, not just the festival. Alicia's eyes narrowed slightly in curiosity. What do you mean? But before Sarah could answer, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room, the sound of something fragile breaking. They turned in unison toward the chaos, an unexpected twist to their evening unfolding and leaving a familiar yet deeply unresolved tension hanging in the air. What had just shattered? Would the festival, and their rekindled friendship, withstand the storm about to break? The noise from the back of the room startled everyone. People paused mid-conversation, heads turning to the source of the commotion. Sarah's pulse quickened. What had just fallen? Stay here, she whispered to Emily and Jake, then made her way toward the sound, dragging Alicia along. The crowd parted, revealing a small table that had tipped over. A collection of delicate festival decorations lay scattered across the floor, glimmering like shattered dreams. Oh no, Sarah breathed, her heart sinking at the sight. They had worked so hard to prepare, and now this. As the disarray unfolded before her, a wave of dread washed over her. The festival wasn't just an event, it was a lifeline for many, a beacon of hope in their small town. Alicia nudged her shoulder. Let me help, she said, her voice steady. Together, they knelt to pick up the ornate glass pieces, their fingers brushing lightly against each other, sparking an unspoken connection. As they gathered up the fragments, Sarah couldn't help but feel a blend of anxiety and nostalgia. They had shared so many moments like this in high school, clearing up after some mischief, laughing through a disaster. The thought tugged at her heart, reminding her of simpler times. Remember when we were supposed to organize that school dance? Alicia chuckled, glancing at Sarah with twinkling eyes. And half the decorations ended up in a tree instead of on the tables. Sarah laughed softly, the sound mingling with the unsteadiness of her breath. We were such a mess back then. But as she smiled, her mind wrestled with the cracks forming in their friendship. Was this commotion just the beginning? With each piece they collected, Sarah felt a strange blend of hope and worry. What if this was a metaphor for their lives? Everything elegant but fragile, easily broken by carelessness or time. I never wanted us to lose touch like we did, Alicia said quietly. There was so much left unsaid and it hurt. But I've missed you. Sarah paused, the candor in Alicia's voice slicing through her internal chaos. Me too. It feels like so much time has passed, and the moments we could be shared linger like shadows. Alicia's expression shifted, the warmth of her smile transformed into something deeper. But we're here now. We can make new memories, right? Just then, a burst of laughter echoed from the entrance, where Emily and Jake had drawn a small crowd. Look, Mom. We made friends. Emily beamed, with Jake enthusiastic beside her, waving a banner they had partially crafted. Their innocence sparked a fresh wave of joy within Sarah, reminding her of the beautiful potential of community. Yes. That's what this festival is all about. Sarah declared, feeling her spirits lift again. Intrigued by the back and forth of emotions, she sensed Alicia shifting closer, ready to share her vision. "I'd love to help with the decorations," Alicia suggested, her voice bubbling with excitement. "We can make sure they stay in one piece this time." Sarah grinned widely, feeling the weight of the past begin to lift. "That's a date. Let's turn this around." But another crash from the back startled them both again, a reminder that their fragile plans might need more than just good intentions to succeed. They exchanged nervous glances as they prepared to face whatever lay ahead. What other surprises awaited them? Would they conquer the challenges rising before them, or would they find the pieces more challenging to mend than expected? The sudden noise pulled Sarah back to the moment. Heart racing, she scanned the crowd, searching for the source of the disturbance. Emily's laughter had faded, replaced by an uneasy hush that lingered in the air. The festival, once a picture of joy, now felt frayed at the edges. "Something's not right," she murmured to Alicia, who nodded knowingly, her eyes darting around the room. They braced themselves, instinctively edging back toward the entrance, where the sound seemed to originate. Just as they were about to investigate further, a voice broke through. "Excuse me. Can someone help?" A young woman, clutching a handful of colorful streamers, stood at the base of a collapsed display. Her face was anxious, eyes wide. Sarah recognized her from previous events. She was a new volunteer, brimming with enthusiasm. "Let us go," Alicia urged, determination igniting their step. They rushed to the woman's side, where chaos reigned. Streamers draped like unwelcomed vines around overturned chairs and tables. The spirit of the festival hung in the balance, and they needed to act fast. Working in tandem, they lifted chairs and cleared the debris. Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline as they began to restore the area, bolstered by the presence of Alicia beside her. "I can't believe this is happening," the woman fretted. "We might have to cancel everything." "Not on our watch," Sarah insisted, her heart swelling with newfound resolve. "We've come too far to let this ruin it. Let us fix this." The excitement spoke to the little girl inside her who had once dreamed of planning magical events. The group quickly caught the attention of others nearby. One by one, fellow volunteers stepped in, forming a small assembly of problem solvers. While some worked to untangle the cascade of streamers, others adjusted the remaining decorations, their laughter melting the tension. Sarah's chest tightened in a good way. It was a reminder of how communities came together in times of need. Alicia and Sarah exchanged encouraging smiles, the air around them charged with a collective sense of purpose. They weren't just fixing decorations, they were stitching the fabric of their community back together. "See?" Alicia beamed as they finished straightening up. "We can make things work, just like before." "Yes, we can," Sarah replied, her spirits lifting. But just as she felt that swell of pride, the sounds of celebration outside filled the room. The vibrant energy of people ready to embrace the day reminded her that they were still standing on the edge of success. "Look!" Emily yelled as she rushed over, her small fingers covered in glue and paint. "We finished painting the sign. Can we show it to everyone?" Jake followed closely, holding a few paper flowers that he had made. Their enthusiasm was infectious. "That's awesome, you too. We'll need your help to put it up right," Sarah said, a sense of joy bubbling inside her. It was these moments that made the hard work worth it, but even as excitement built, Sarah's heart caught again when she caught sight of the scattered decorations from the earlier mishap. What if things spiraled out of control again? Would they truly hold it together until the festival started? "Let us do this," Alicia said, her eyes shining with determination. Sarah felt the same pulse of hope surge through her. Maybe this was just the beginning of something they could redefine, something they could grow. As they prepared to put on their first collaborative display together, a sudden, sharp crash echoed from another room, silencing their triumphant chatter. They froze, eyes wide in disbelief. "What now?" Sarah exchanged looks with Alicia. Whatever was happening behind closed doors wouldn't stay hidden for long. Would they be able to continue stitching their frayed community together, or would the impending chaos pull them apart yet again? The loud crash echoed in their ears, and the warmth that had been brewing among the group instantly turned cold. Sarah felt her stomach drop. Tension thickened the air as they shared a collective breath, glancing at the locked door leading deeper into the festival space. What was that? Emily whispered, her tiny frame trembling slightly. The enthusiasm that had just filled her eyes dimmed, replaced with uncertainty. Stay close, Alicia said, her voice firm, yet warm. She placed a protective arm around Emily. Sarah felt a rush of gratitude for her friend's reassurance. They needed each other's strength now more than ever. Without waiting for any more hesitation, Sarah pushed through the cluster of volunteers until she reached the door, her heart pounding like a drum. She wrapped her hands around the doorknob, taking a breath, readying herself for whatever lay beyond. On three, she said, glancing back at Alicia and the others. 1, 2, 3. She swung the door open to reveal a scene that made her pulse race in an entirely different way. A table piled high with art supplies had toppled, scattering paints and papers everywhere. Some of the volunteers were bent over, trying to clear the mess while others looked concerned, as if they had witnessed a small tragedy. Can everyone help us? We need those colors for the mural, called out a familiar voice. Liam, the festival coordinator. His face wore a mix of frustration and hope. If we don't get it cleaned up soon, we'll miss part of the morning program. The change in atmosphere galvanized the group. As soon as Sarah stepped through the threshold, a few volunteers shifted to help. Sarah felt a sense of almost tangible resolve seep through her bones. Everyone was willing to embrace the chaos and fight to save their festival. Come on, everyone. Let us turn this around. Sarah shouted, her voice echoing off the painted walls. It felt empowering to see the volunteers spring into action, leveraging their past teamwork and camaraderie. Let us scoop up the paints first. Alicia suggested as she grabbed a bucket, passing it to Sarah, who immediately followed suit. The room buzzed with chatter, laughter, and a shared mission. Sarah felt lighter, more at ease. They were elbow-deep in paint and project pieces, but the laughter and the sounds of playful shoving made it feel like a party, not a chore. It was the essence of what brought them all together, their love for the community and their commitment to each other. Emily ran around with bright splashes of color on her cheek, her laughter contagious. We can do this! She exclaimed, her small voice ringing above the din. As Sarah helped put things back in order, each passing moment painted over the earlier doubts they shared. Yet, as the last remains of the mess were carefully collected, a chill ran down Sarah's spine. There was still something unsettling about the noise they had heard. The festival had been pulled together just in time, but at what cost? Before she could voice her thoughts, another crash reverberated through the walls, this time followed by a murmur of panic rising from somewhere deeper in the venue. Sarah's heart sank as dread filled her. Would they have to face yet another challenge? Did you hear that? Alicia said, locking eyes with Sarah, her expression mirroring the unease festering inside. There was a silent understanding that more than just decorations were at stake. The festival had become more than an event, it was their lifeline, and it was all hanging by a thread. What awaited them behind that darkness? Would they be able to confront whatever was threatening their hard work, or would the chaos finally tear them apart? The moment was electric, charged with fear and uncertainty. As Sarah and Alicia exchanged glances, they could see the unease mirrored in the eyes of the other volunteers. A few looked ready to bolt, while others pressed forward, driven by an urge to understand what lay beyond the shadows. We need to check it out, Sarah said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. The thought of retreat didn't sit well with her. She was tired of running from chaos, they were all in this together, and they had to face it head-on. Right behind you, Alicia replied, squeezing Emily's shoulder gently and urging the child forward. The group moved cautiously toward the source of the noise. Each step felt like a countdown, as if they were about to unveil something dreadful. Stay quiet, Sarah whispered, leading the way through the hall. They passed art pieces proudly displayed, vibrant colors splashing the walls, symbols of community spirit and creativity. But the warmth of the festival seemed dimmed now, shadows creeping in. As they reached another door, heavier than the last one, Sarah could hear muffled voices coming from the other side. The tension in her chest clenched tighter. What if it's just an overreaction? Liam suggested, trying to lighten the mood. His voice wavered slightly, as if he himself wasn't convinced. Emily fidgeted beside Alicia, glancing up with wide eyes. What if there's a monster? She whispered dramatically, a nervous giggle spilling out even though her little hands trembled. That would be one big monster, Alicia replied, managing a smile to suit the girl, though her own heart raced. Sarah steeled herself. One way to find out. She pushed against the door, sending it creaking open. The sight that greeted them was just as alarming as the noise they heard. An entire staging area lay in disarray. Chairs were overturned, scattered debris littered the floor like fallen leaves in an autumn wind. People huddled together, their faces stricken with confusion and fear. What happened? Sarah asked, stepping inside, desperate to reclaim control over this fragmented scene. It's the speakers, a tall volunteer named Ken said, gesturing toward a disheveled pile of electronics. They went haywire. A speaker fell. It was just a freak accident, but it looked worse than it was. A wave of relief washed over Sarah, but just as quickly, her focus sharpened. The cheerful melody that had once flowed through the festival now lay trapped beneath a thick veil of uncertainty. Can we fix them? Alicia asked, glancing back at Sarah as if searching for an anchor in this storm. Ken nodded cautiously. Might be able to salvage them if we hurry. Let us do it. Sarah felt a fresh surge of determination. Everyone, split up. A few of us can work on the speakers, the others can help clean up the other areas. We can't lose momentum now. They all sprang into action again, each volunteer falling into their respective tasks like cogs in a well-oiled machine. Bits of laughter returned, the sounds of teamwork easing the anxiety that had spread like wildfire moments before. Amidst the deliberate chaos, Sarah noticed Emily wandering near the edge of the action, a forlorn expression on her face as she stared at the tangled mess of wires. Hey, Emily! Sarah called. Do you want to help me? With a quick boost of encouragement, the young girl's face lit up once again. Sure! She exclaimed, and she bounded over, bringing a sense of brightness back to Sarah's heart. As hours passed and the festival began to transform once more, that earlier anxiety melted away, replaced by shared smiles and expressions of triumph. They may have come close to unraveling, but somehow, they'd rediscovered the heart of the festival, the one that connected them all, even in chaos. Just as Sarah felt the group settle into a rhythm of smooth teamwork, another unsettling noise jolted through the venue, louder and more ominous than before. It was not a crash, but a sound that sent shivers down her spine. Was there more to fear lurking in the shadows? What would they face next as the shadows began to stir? The room went silent. Conversations halted, and every eye turned toward the source of that sudden sound, a low rumble that resonated through the floor. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, a wild drumbeat that matched the spike of adrenaline coursing through her veins. What was that? Liam whispered, barely above a breath. I don't know, Sarah replied, her voice shaky but determined to hold the group together. But we need to find out. The uneasy atmosphere wrapped around them like a thick fog. The once vibrant festival admired for its community spirit felt like a ghost of itself. The shadows seemed to lengthen, morphing into something almost alive as they flickered under the dimmed lights. Maybe it's just the wind. Alicia suggested, though her tone wavered. A gust outside whipped against the building, rattling the windows, but this felt different. More ominous. Let us check the back door, Ken said, moving toward the exit that led outside. We might have to see what's going on. If something's out there. The noise reverberated again, louder this time, and it cut through the air like a warning bell. It had an unsettling quality, something primal that called deeper fears to the surface. Stay close together, Sarah instructed, forming a tight circle with Alicia, Emily, and the rest of the volunteers. The coalescing mass of uncertainty created an unlikely sense of unity among them. As Ken swung open the back door, a harsh synthetic screech tore through the night, causing everyone to jump back in unison. Outside, the shadows took on a menacing shape. Flickers of movement slithered at the edge of their vision. The night sky seemed to pulse with a strange light, illuminating figures that felt more menacing than welcoming. Is that? Sarah squinted, trying to make out what was happening, her heart clenching as she suspected the worst. It's just a projection, right? Liam said, trying to convince himself. But it wasn't just a flicker on a wall. The shapes danced, morphing into monstrous forms that twisted and turned under the vibrant lights. It felt like a scene torn out of a horror movie. The idea of a fun festival transforming into something terrifying weighed heavily on Sarah's heart. Maybe we can, she began, but suddenly, Emily, still holding onto Alicia's hand, pointed and gasped. Look! In the midst of the projections, a familiar image appeared. A giant outline of the festival banner split the air. Beneath it, words flowed out like blood on a page. Help us. Who's asking for help? Ken whispered, glancing around the circle, clearly unsettled, the color drained from Alicia's face. Is this a prank? Who in their right mind would joke about that? Liam shot back, his voice rising. The tension was thick enough to touch. They're scared. Emily's voice cut through the chaos. They want us to help them. A shared look passed between the adults as realization dawned this wasn't the end of their struggle. No, it was just an alarming beginning. I guess we can't ignore it now, Sarah said, her voice resolute as she met the eyes of each volunteer. We have to check this out. Whatever is going on, we need to face it together. They slowly moved out toward the growing shadows, every step heavy with trepidation but filled with collective resolve. What awaited them in the darkness? As they stepped out into the unknown, a chilling thought settled in Sarah's mind. What if they weren't the only ones in need of rescuing? The air outside was thick with tension, every breath mingling with uncertainty as the group stepped into the unknown. Street lamps flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows that encircled them like a gathering storm. Sarah led the way, holding tightly to the courage that buoyed her spirit, even as doubt gnawed at the edges of her mind. Stay alert, she whispered, glancing back at the others. Their faces were lit by fear and determination, a mixture that somehow grounded her. Suddenly, flickers of movement caught her eye, drawing her attention back to the projections that caused such alarm. The vivid images twisted in the night, bold and unsettling, flashing scenes of people, fear etched on their features. They stretched out their hands, images caught in an eternity of desperation. Panic surged through Sarah as she registered their cries, though the sounds were muffled. What if they really need us? Emily's soft voice broke through the night, tinged with concern. Then we can't turn back, Liam replied, his resolve hardening even in the face of terror. The way he met Sarah's gaze ignited a flame of determination that flickered within her as well. They were all in this together. Ken stepped forward, squinting into the dark. Can anyone make out where these images are coming from? His voice was steadier than it had been inside, but Sarah could feel the tremor beneath his words. As they pushed further, they took note of a faint sound, almost like a heartbeat, pulsing rhythmically somewhere in the distance. Each beat was a reminder of the unnerving reality. They were chasing shadows, yet they felt so undeniably real. Was it danger, or was it a plea for help that led them deeper into the night? The crowd began to thicken, dozens of small figures converging toward a bright flicker at the center. Sarah's heart raced as she turned to the others. Do we keep going? They didn't have time to respond as the eerie light flared brighter, forcing them to shield their eyes. In that instant, a wave washed over Sarah, a mix of fear and an unshakable instinct to protect. She realized that if she hesitated, they would wind up lost in the chaos. Together. She called out, and they surged forward, hands linked, as they fought through the crowd. What they found was shocking. Barely illuminated by the glowing projections was an abandoned stage, a mockery of the festival they had been so proud of. Broken decorations littered the ground, and the words "help us" bounced around like a malignant echo. Then, unexpectedly, the images shifted, morphing from cries of terror to faces of hope. It was bizarre, unsettling but inspiring. A new projection appeared. It showed familiar faces, people they knew from the festival, smiling, waving. Maybe it's a message, Alicia breathed, her brow furrowed as she tried to piece it together. Perhaps they want us to find what is happening to help others. But before they could digest the words, the pulsing sound intensified, the air crackling as if charged with energy. The ground trembled beneath their feet, sending another rush of adrenaline coursing through Sarah. This was it, whatever they had to face was drawing near, and the stakes had never been higher. What the heck is going on? Ken shouted, his unease mirrored in each of their eyes. They inched closer toward the stage, the glow shifting, changing the faces in front of them as a dark figure emerged from the shadows. One distinct, haunting image that sent a shiver through Sarah. As it lifted its head, she felt the grip of terror coil tightly around her heart. This was just the beginning of a fight they never saw coming. Was the shadow friend or foe, and what lay behind that distorted face? Sarah realized they were no longer just observers. They had become part of something much larger, and maybe far more dangerous than they ever imagined. Are we really ready for this? Emily asked, her voice quaky, but there was no turning back now. Whatever comes next, we face it together, Sarah declared, her jaw tightening in resolve. The figure loomed closer, leaving them with one terrifying question: would they emerge stronger, or would darkness swallow them whole? The figure stepped out from the shadows, its features becoming clearer with each heartbeat. What they once feared morphed into something familiar, resonating within Sarah's soul. It was a testament to the struggles they had all faced, the lonely nights, the unyielding weight of responsibility, the yearning for connection. Yet now, this figure seemed to embody their very essence, the collective longing to be understood and to belong. "Who are you?" Sarah called out, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. As the figure drew closer, it shed its cloak of mystery. Beneath the shroud stood a man named Daniel, a former neighbor known for his kindness but who had moved away during hard times. Tears glimmered in his eyes, reflecting a blend of hope and vulnerability. "I've come back to help and to ask for your help." Shock rippled through the crowd. "You need our help?" Liam asked, his voice laced with confusion. Daniel nodded and explained the calamity that had struck his new home. A sudden flood had devastated the small community he had found refuge in. "It feels like the world has forgotten about us. If we don't act soon, the next storm will take everything away." A powerful silence followed his words, punctuated only by the crackling pulsing energy. Recognition settled over Sarah like a warm embrace. It wasn't merely about their own festival anymore, it was about creating connections that transcended their small town. They could be that lifeline for others in need. In an instant, something shifted in the atmosphere. They had a chance. A chance to rise above their struggles and use their newfound strength to drive change, not just for themselves, but for those fighting battles far greater. "Sarah," Alicia said, her voice brimming with conviction. "We have to organize a fundraising event. We can gather supplies and funds to send to the families affected by the floods. This festival can morph into something bigger." The excitement surged back into Sarah's heart. Here was a spark igniting a fire that could become a roaring blaze of support and empathy. "Yes!" she exclaimed, glancing around at the faces of her friends and neighbors. "We can turn this festival into a force for good. Let us extend our hand to Daniel's community." Determination radiated from the group, replacing anxiety with purpose. They rallied together like a well-rehearsed team, organizing plans and lists, hearts beating as one towards shared hope. They would create not just a celebration, but a movement. As work began, Sarah felt something inside her shift, like the light breaking through after a long storm. Launching into action with her children alongside her, she saw them blossom in their roles, Emily contributing with creative posters, and Jake gathering items from neighbors. Their laughter filled the air, a sweet, symphonic contrast to the earlier chaos. The storm might have threatened their festival, but it also unveiled a profound truth: community was built on connection and empathy, and Sarah had fostered this spirit of resilience despite her initial fears. As days melted into nights leading up to the festival, the vibrant spirit of togetherness burgeoned, bursting forth into plans and creativity. On the day of the festival, Sarah stood outside the community center, watching as the townspeople poured in. Food stalls, smiles, decorations, an explosion of hope and joy that seemed to vibrate with energy. Music played, laughter floated through the air like sunlight dancing on a river's surface, families came together, sharing stories and embracing one another. It was the festival they had dreamed of, but transformed in ways they never thought possible. It was a celebration of survival, unity, and hope. As she helped carry in boxes of donations, Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes, tears of joy and relief. She had become the nurturing soul she'd always longed to be, a mother, a friend, a pillar in her community. As the sun set and the stars began to ignite the sky, she looked to her children, joy radiating from them. "We did this together, didn't we?" she said, her voice thick with emotion. Emily smiled adamantly, followed by Jake nodding vigorously, full of pride. "We sure did," they exclaimed, voices mingling with the jubilant cheers from the crowd. In that moment, Sarah felt a warmth envelop her heart. She had not only transformed her life, but through connection and love, she had helped to transform her entire community, and her children would carry this spirit with them always. "Together is the only way to do it," she whispered into the night, hopeful for what lay ahead. And the festival carried on, a night lit up with laughter, music, and the resounding echo of hope, a celebration that reminded everyone just how powerful they could be when they came together. As Sarah looked back over the crowd, she envisioned new possibilities bursting forth, each moment igniting a flickering flame of community spirit. It felt beautifully infinite. This is the moment. Rise by connecting. Now is the time for your community too. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to fuel our journey and feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to support what we're building here together.